Good morning, guys, and welcome to this video podcast of yesterday's game against Southampton. With me is Jeff Hayward. So, Jeff, yesterday didn't exactly go to plan, did it?
No. No, it didn't, did it, Sam?
It's we're all feeling pretty lost here at the moment, and even though it's the day after, I still feel pretty raw about it. And it was a really interesting game, actually, and in some ways it summed up many parts of our season all in the space of about 90 minutes. We huffed and puffed. We effectively didn't break through, and the person who did break through was a former Cherry. And then salt was added to the wound late on into the game, and it's another goal whereby, you know, we're not relegated yet, but that goal could be the difference. I think a lot of us are resigned to our fate now. There is still hope, but it is minimal. It really is. When you look at the different combination of scenarios that could happen, they're not impossible. And with what's happened with Watford over the last 24 hours, who knows? Given what's happened to Nigel Pearson, Aston Villa have got maybe one winnable game, but let's go to the game. So, 1 o'clock, teams are announced. 4-4-2, no Solanke, no Gosling. What's your thoughts?
I would have picked Solanke to start after the way he played the last two games, and the way that Callum played off the bench at City, I'd have been inclined to keep him on the bench and bring him off. Gosling, again, Gosling and Billing. Yeah, I mean, either or. I wasn't that bothered. I thought he'd play 4-4-2, and it was pretty much as expected, actually.
You can tell by the tone of our voice, we're both feeling very despondent and resigned to the fact that we're going to have second tier football next season. But to Bournemouth's credit, with the players that, obviously, I think there are so many times this season where we've seen a team line up, we've been happy with it, and then afterwards, when things have gone wrong, we then say, well, why did he do that? And I'm always wary of sort of going that route in like conversation. I don't particularly want to this time, because I think most of us were relatively happy with the players that were out there, relatively happy. And to be fair, we had a very, very strong start, didn't we? That first 20 minutes, we were unfortunate not to get a goal, I think.
Very unfortunate. The play was good. We went very direct. A lot of channel football, which actually was causing Southampton quite a lot of problems. We were getting a lot of territory, a lot of set pieces, whether that was long throws into the box or corners or free kicks. Just that little bit of quality, and we didn't actually threaten the goal enough. We created a lot of, as you said, a lot of huffing and puffing. But if the final ball was there was an exquisite ball from Rico that was a really good example. Ball flies in, and Callum is on his heels, doesn't expect the ball to be there. And we've seen that a lot from Callum over the last few games. He just doesn't go for it. Danny Ings throws himself at that ball, and then the score is 1-0. That's the difference. That small margin, and when we're not going for balls like that, it doesn't take long for the confidence just to seep out of the side. So the longer the first half went on, Southampton are a good team, and they play good football. They're unhurried, they pass it well. And with Danny Ings up front, they've always got somebody who can create something from nothing.
Yeah, they have. And as you say, the chances that we had, I make notes during matches, and 8 minutes gone, Rico crosses. I've got a question mark. Why didn't Callum gamble? on 9 minutes, Lloyd Kelly with a shot on the turn that just went past the post, slightly deflected. Callum Wilson header from a junior Stanislas cross on 10 minutes, very similar to that effort at Man City, where nowhere near the target, headed it high over the goal. And then on 16 minutes, end-to-end action, there was a great chance. It was smothered by Ramsdale. And then Cherries attacked really well after Lerma fed Rico, who played in Stanislas, whose kind of curved ball into the box was, just eluded King, was out of his reach. And we had a ridiculous amount of corners, didn't we? And, Bournemouth are set-piece specialists. So I was just praying that one of them was going to sort of fall for us. But it seemed to, Saints were very resolute in their defending. But also, when they didn't win the header, it just seemed to drop kindly to them and they managed to clear. It seemed to be one of those days. And I was just watching it with a few friends thinking, it's one of them, isn't it? We've got so many chances. And I was getting more concerned the longer the game was going on, and the fact that we weren't taking these chances. And for a team that was needing a little bit of luck, we certainly had none.
We didn't have any, and there was that chance, I think it was before Saints scored, wasn't it, where Walker Peters clears it off the line. I mean, again, amazing defending. You got to applaud the skill and the awareness that he had to get that ball wide.
Yeah.
But that sort of effort on your day, when we're playing Leicester, that goes for us. On our day, that works for you. On our day, on today's game, it didn't, and that was the difference. We just didn't have. We had a lot of effort, but not a lot of luck, and also I think we lacked a bit of belief that we were going to get the goal today. It felt a bit like some of those games at the start of the lockdown where we didn't really believe that we could score.
Yeah. If relegation is what's going to happen, and, let's be fair, it probably is, there are a number of players that we're starting to see over this lockdown period that could emerge as brilliant candidates. I mean, Jack Stacey, I think, will be excellent in the Championship. Lloyd Kelly will be another that is as well. But those two players that I've just mentioned, for all the good, there's a mistake in them. And it was Lloyd Kelly whose ball out from the back was cut out. And then Southampton just played the overload. They had so many players. And then it fell to the one person that you do not want it to fall to.
Lloyd Kelly's been really impressive. I mean, to think that he's now a fixture in that back four when actually he was picked to play left back originally and he's hardly played any games this season. He's got a lot of maturity, doesn't panic, passes the ball well. But that one time where you think hit the channel ball and he tries to play it through midfield. And you watch that again and you think that pass was never on in the first place. What are you thinking? And you're right, just opened us up. And Danny Ings sort of squares up Jack Stacey with the help of that sort of dummy run on the outside. And he doesn't need much to hit the corner. He's very good. Ramsdale had an excellent game, gets a hand to it, but the ball sort of, it's one of those. The ball sort of bounces over his hand and doesn't get a full hand on it. And it's like, it's a sickener. And one of those days, having said that, we felt that way at half-time against Leicester last Sunday. We played infinitely worse in that first half against Leicester, and we came out and we did get a bit of luck, and it turned for us. Just didn't go our way today. Can I just say one player that I thought looked off the pace really badly, David Brooks, and we needed him to step up today, and he didn't. Maybe too many games in too short space of time. He was subbed at half-time, but I think if we're going to beat Everton, he needs to be firing.
Yeah, I was just about to mention him, actually. You took the words out of my mouth. I almost feel as though there was too much pressure on David Brooks, both from supporters and, maybe within the club staff as well, because when we spoke to Fletch, albeit off the air, he told us that, David Brooks is looking amazing in training at the moment and he's hopefully going to be fantastic for us. But we saw glimpses of it, but I just sort of wonder, for the amount of time that he was out and with the intensity of football that we've been playing in conditions that are, they're alien to everyone, but it's just another spanner to throw into the works that means that it's not a proper comeback for him. And I just think that maybe, what was it, he played 80 minutes in the previous game before that, I think. I just wonder if he was just burnt out from that, to be honest. And sometimes I feel as though we waste positions in the squad or in the starting 11 on players that are not up to the task. And another person, I think, Harry Wilson, this season, for all his free kicks and his brilliant set pieces that he's made, and for all the good positions he's got in, he's not necessarily delivered up to the standard he should. And once again, he had a golden opportunity today as well. What do you think about Harry Wilson and David Brooks, and will we retain them next season?
That's a really good question. If we're given the opportunity to keep Harry Wilson, I'd pass it up, I think, and say, not for us. I don't think he's got the physical strength to play the position that Eddie wants to play in. And the sort of malaise of unconvincing finishing was there with him today. And arguably in that game against Spurs, where you think he buries that shot against Spurs in the last sort of couple of minutes to give us the 1-0 earlier in the season, I think he'd have buried two of those chances today, and we'd come out with a win possibly today. But it's just not working for him. And David Brooks, I think, is going to be a big fat check for David Brooks in the summer, possibly. And a lot of the players will probably have escape clauses if we get relegated, and I'm sure he's one of them. And I think he's a very talented player. We just haven't got the best out of him this season because of the lack of games. The injuries have been a massive issue. If we'd have had him for more of the season, I'm sure we wouldn't be in the position we're in.
Does the middle of the park worry you in terms of next season? Because Lerma, for the amount we signed him for, I don't know how much we get for him now, but I'm sure there'll be teams interested. But he's started off incredible for us, but as time's gone on, he's just become a tough tackling, hard hitting midfielder that arguably might not be rated at the same amount that we paid for him. I don't quite know, but that kind of worries me that if he goes, then you're left with a championship midfield. It's, albeit, okay, that's fine in the championship, but I feel as though we need some extra special quality. Yeah. Lewis Cook might even be plucked out as well. There, you're starting to now think, my God, what players will we be left with?
Well, let's not think about that. Maybe let's save this conversation for the next Sunday night, because it's hard to take games like today and not feel really depressed. I feel deflated. Everybody who watched that game just felt depressed and deflated, dejected, whatever, and it's hard to actually come away from that game and think, we've still got a chance. And if Watford, without a manager, against a Manchester City side hurting from getting beaten by Arsenal and needing to find their rhythm pretty quickly before they play Real Madrid, they are not going to be taking that game easy on Tuesday night. And against a rudderless Watford side, who, it seems to me, that decision to get rid of Pearson smacks of they've given up, bizarrely. I don't know why, but just unbelievable decision.
So there are obviously, we'll talk about those matches actually as later on into the podcast, I'm sure. But like you say, there are conversations that we almost want to have now because we're resigned to it, but there is still that chance. So we'll park that for now. Yeah. Half-time came then, and I felt pretty awful. And you know what? I think it being Southampton just added that extra bit of pain as well. I don't know about you, but you 1-0 down against Southampton, and I knew it was not going to be an easy second half. They would not and I don't know what he had pinned to the dressing room wall or whether he needed to motivate players to that extent, but they came out really well, I thought. And if you could classify the first half in percentages in terms of who was on top, I would say it was like 80-20 to Bournemouth, who, despite the fact that Saints went in 1-0 up. Second half, arguably 70-30 Saints, and especially that first 15-20 minutes, it didn't look like a Bournemouth side that was looking to get back in, almost like the Leicester first 15 minutes of the second half. And Southampton just seemed to coast, really, didn't they?
Yeah, it was tough for us to get a foothold in the game. I think that one of the issues of playing that ball over the top is that sometimes it feels a bit aimless and you cough up possession a bit easy. And what we were doing in that first half was actually we were getting our foot on the ball and playing some good football as well. So it was a bit of a mixture of the two. And at the start of the second half, any time we got the ball in, we were hoofing it long pretty aimlessly, giving it back to them. And they were growing in confidence. You could see they were enjoying it, playing with freedom, playing without any pressure, where we were every minute that passed, it was like there was another weight of expectation being lowered on top of the team. And when that penalty got given by VAR, it kind of it sort of the air of inevitability that you thought, well, it's just the way it's going. It's just the way it is, really.
I know that Danny Ings is the top goal scorer for Southampton, but I thought that Ward-Prowse would take penalties as well, but he doesn't. And I've not seen Danny Ings take many penalties, and certainly the stutter was something that I've not seen before from him. But Ramsdale read it and he managed to keep hold of it as well. And what was that? That was on about 56 minutes. So we still got the best part of 35 minutes to go. At that point, he thought, is that the trigger moment? Because Bournemouth have always had that kind of moment. Rico hitting the post. Moments in the Leicester match where we won the penalty. Saving a penalty. Would it spark the team into life? It didn't happen.
I'm just going to say this. Danny Ings, I loved him when he played for us. I think Danny Ings, when I saw him step up to take that penalty, I thought he's going to miss this,
really, because
he's Danny Ings, and I do think that he's got an affinity for the club. He's got an affinity with Eddie. He didn't want to put us 2-0 down. And I know any Saints fans listening, probably conspiracy theory, whatever. But I felt, and you could tell by his expression, I don't think his heart was really in putting us down. Yeah. And if that's what he was thinking, it's obviously everyone's a professional, right? And he scored a cracking goal in the first half, so it wasn't. And he should have had a second. He had a shot that went flying past the post that I thought was in the second half too. But that penalty, I thought he didn't really want to score it. Funny that. And I did agree. I thought it was going to give us a bit of a kick up the backside and wake us up a bit, but we were just a bit off the pace in that second half. Even when we got in behind them, I mean, I lost track of the number of long throws into the box, the number of corners where we did nothing with them, and we just need a bit more calmness and creativity. It was missing, and maybe we weren't helped by the fact that Stanislas obviously goes off. So we lose one of our key creatives.
I agree. I mean, the deliveries into the box, I thought in the second half weren't particularly good. There were times where we needed some crosses with some decent whip and pace on them, but they were loopy and high. And the amount of times the goalkeeper claimed corners or crosses, I'd have probably needed about 3 or 4 hands to count them on. It seemed to be every time we got them into the box. And we did get chances. Harry Wilson was there on the end of a couple, and both of them were fantastically saved by the keeper. And when those aren't going in, you just know it's not your day. Yeah,
and then Solanke had that one blocked by I can't remember the Dutch guy, and it was just one of those games. So, is it any surprise then that the goal that we do score gets disallowed for VAR. And clearly Callum was offside, so I don't have any complaints with that. It was just like sod's law, no VAR, linesman misses that, we get a goal.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know if there will be any plans to use VAR in the Championship. I certainly hope not, if that's where we end up, because look, it kills the moment for me. Absolutely. And
I was going mad. I was going mental.
yeah, and it really does kill it completely. And it used to be a look to the ref, a look to the lino. Are they flagging? No. Have they blown for anything? No. That's it. Just a quick look. And even players, when they scored, would always just take a quick look to the lino to make sure it was okay. But nowadays, there's just none of that, and they're not celebrating like they used to. And I almost feel like writing into some kind of industrial body or something, with the way that the Advertising Association or whatever, with the way that Sky Sports advertise their football at the start of the season, with fans all chanting and singing and shouting and jumping for joy with euphoria, because that's not what it's like these days. Now it's a is it going to happen or not? It's a real temporary celebration. Once again, it was ruled out. Look, it was the right decision, of course it was, but at that moment on 86 minutes, my heart just... Oh no, actually, I think it was a bit later on than that. I think it might have even been injury time or whatever. But my heart just sank. And then nail in the coffin, goal number 2.
Yeah, good finish again. Clinical finishing, which we didn't have at our end, but they have at their end. And 2-0 was harsh, but honestly, that was a tough game. It mirrored a lot of what's gone on in our season. A number of times we've played well and got 0 from the game. We've got 0 from VAR. We've got no luck whatsoever in any of their games, and we tried. We really gave it a go, and at least we gave it a go. I think Southampton, on balance, were the better side. They were playing with a freedom that we just weren't playing with, and that they were playing with a belief, confidence. Crikey, look at the results they've had since coming back from that 9-0 against Leicester. I mean, wow. He's turned it around. They're playing with they all know what their job is. They've got a settled side. I was really impressed with Romeo and Ward-Prowse, where they control that midfield. I think they've got Walker-Peters, really talented defender at right back. Danny Ings is obviously a terrific finisher. We know all about him. And the goalkeeper was absolute calmness personified. So the spine of their side, very good. And we just weren't quite on their level today.
Yeah, we weren't. And it leaves us in a horrendous position, really, where we're looking at other matches. And I'm sure we'll get on to discussing that. So let's take a look at the players that were on the pitch, and we'll just sort of go through each of them. I mean, Ramsdale, obviously saved the penalty. How do you think we look defensively? Jack Stacey, Steve Cook, Lloyd Kelly, Diego Rico.
I think it's all right. I think Kelly is the great sort of rock-like player in that back four. Stacey's good. He got some good attacking positions as well. Rico defending better than I've seen him for much of the season. And Steve Cook was solid. So I think as a back four, we're all right without filling me with loads of confidence we're going to get a clean sheet. I think we always give up quite a lot of chances.
One of the things I can say to the credit of our defence is that after the Man City game, I wasn't looking back and thinking Nathan Ake would have changed the result there. No one really felt as though they missed him. And I've got to say, that kind of goal, I don't know what it is, players cutting in from that side on the right foot. I mean, the goal from Jesus was was very similar with the way that he, cut inside and found that corner. That was almost a carbon copy. But even Nathan Ake's played matches where I don't think he would have made a difference really. So at this point in time, I'm sort of thinking to myself, well, if he does go, he tried his very best. His last touch nearly kept us in the Premier League with that, a goal-saving challenge on Jamie Vardy against Leicester, which ultimately that match we won the 3 points. He goes with our best wishes, but defensively we could be fairly sound. We might need reinforcements in places. I don't think Simon Francis will be playing anymore. Charlie Daniels might be back. Who knows? Midfield. Yesterday we had David Brooks, obviously, Phil Billing and Jefferson Lerma, Junior Stanislas. Now the weakness, we've obviously discussed in David Brooks. I think Stanislas was fairly solid. But what were your thoughts on Billing and Lerma in the middle? Because Billing's someone that always gets stick on the full-time free-for-all. People always, he's like public enemy number one on many occasions. He's the first person they look to as being the weakness. But what do you think of their central midfield pairing?
I think it's okay. It just it's good at breaking up the play, and I thought Lerma and Billing, for all the ball that Southampton had, they competed really well in that midfield. The number of times that Lerma particularly broke up challenges, 1, 2 or 3 in a row, 50-50s, and left players reeling in his wake, which was great to see. And Billing, I think he's deceptive in the way he cuts his long legs, cut the ball out lots and lots of times. And he did okay today. But, I mean, maybe it was the shape of the team that worked so well against Manchester City, and arguably in that Leicester second half, has 5 in midfield. And I think when you play Lerma and Billing, you do need someone else creative in there, another central midfielder, and maybe I don't know. There would have been a better call to play Stanislas and King, and maybe leave Brooks on the bench with Solanke up front on his own, Lewis Cook or Gosling in the middle as well.
And then up front, Callum Wilson and Josh King. It was a difficult one. Callum Wilson's making the right runs again, like he did against Manchester City. It was very sort of Charlie Daniels-esque, that Diego Rico ball that basically put Callum Wilson on goal to set up Brooks at Man City. But he made a number of good runs. But ultimately, we didn't really get the shots away on goal when he had chances to score where, the cross came in and he should have headed it on target at least. It just ballooned off his head. He's not in great form. Josh King showed elements and he went through on goal. He had that penalty claim early on, but he did go down way too easy. I don't even think VAR even took a look at it in the end, maybe a brief sort of passing glance. But what do you think of those two?
You know what you're going to get with both of them? A lot of effort, a lot of hard running, and they do create opportunities because of that hard running. They do win a lot of free kicks because of that. Josh, I think, is playing with a bit more confidence than Callum. I just think Callum is shot in front of goal. Sometimes goal scorers go through that phase where you think they're just never going to hit the back of the net again. And there's been a number of chances that Callum's had over the last few games where you think Callum of last season would bury those, but he's not. And it's getting to the point where I think he needs to be benched. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Solanke should start in front of him for the foreseeable future. One more game.
Yeah, and Sam Surridge, if we are relegated, Sam Surridge has proved that he can score goals in the Championship, and maybe with the attacking flair that we may keep in midfield with the likes of Junior Stanislas, etc., we've still got hope in terms of keeping our attacking flair, perhaps, because Sam Surridge has demonstrated in the few minutes that he's had had, that he always knows how to hit the back of the net, doesn't he?
Yeah, he can score. He can score goals. He's hungry. He's enthusiastic. He's got something to prove, and he knows where the back of the net is. His approach play and his general play as part of the team is probably a little bit more naive and doesn't give the team as much as it does as Josh or Callum do. But when it comes to finishing, he can stick it in the back of the net, as he showed in the 96th minute, but albeit it got ruled out.
Yeah. Thoughts on the rivalry? There's a lot of Saints fans that are coming online and giving us a little bit of grief. They say we're not their rivals, yet they are happy to lord it up over us. And they've been doing that plentifully in the last however many hours it is, 16 hours or so. We have intensified the rivalry, no matter whether we stay up or whether we go down, haven't we?
Look, Southampton fans have had a tough season. We beat them for the first time at St Mary's earlier in the season. They had a record home defeat where they lost 9-0.
Embarrassing.
Hassan Hootel was one more defeat and he'd have got fired. And so, honestly, if we were in their position, I'd be doing exactly the same. I don't begrudge them at all. Football is one of those sports. It comes around and goes around. And I'm sure that there'll be times where we get to lord it over them in the future. That's what non-rivalry is all about, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah. And you know what? Football lasts forever. And you know what? For the past 2 seasons, we've been ahead of them. And it all depends how long a time frame, how long a sort of span you want to look at things. If you want to look things, very short term, you'd say that Bournemouth have pretty much had the better of them. That's been their first win for a few seasons now, I think it is. I mean, they haven't won in quite a while, and for the first time when we do sit lower than them in the table, it could be curtains for us. But it goes on. It goes on, Jeff. Jeff, thank you very much for coming on once again.
No problem.
Overjoyed as ever on the Cherries. And if you like this video, do remember to give it a subscribe. Put your comments below about what you thought about the game, player ratings, or even which players you think we may be able to retain. There'll be more content coming out over the next few days, but of course we'll be back for the final game of the season 2. So keep it locked on Back of the Net throughout the week. Up the Cherries.